I have an amazing Art of a Meaningful Life podcast for you today. My guest today, we talked about everything from swimming with whales to painting walls yellow to the biggest drop to the biggest rises. You've got to tune in for this one. Love this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Art of a Meaningful Life. My name is Carmen DeValis, and I am your host. And today I am really excited because we're talking about finding meaning in your life, the ways that we do it, and the trials and the challenges and successes. And my guest today is Karen Goslin, and Karen is a licensed social worker, psychotherapist. And I have here you're the creator of the KG Accountable Therapy Method, which I'm going to want to
That's
hear about, of course. Welcome,
hmm
Karen.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Carmen. It's a delight to be here. And I love the theme of your podcast, giving our life meaning or having meaning in our life and how powerful that can be. So I love to talk with you about that.
Oh, I'm excited too. And the way Karen and I met is we are both sharing a stage for was it Women to Watch Summit, which is March 7th and 8th. And Karen is speaking, and I'm speaking. And for me, speaking up is part of living a meaningful life. It's relatively new for me in this later part of my life, and stepping out and speaking up. And so I'm excited to hear you speak today as well as in March.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. I'm just honored to speak on Women's Day about women, and the panel I'm going to be on is the trailblazing panel. Like I sat with the curator to say like what panel would fit, and she's like, "That's the one for you," and I'm like, "Yeah, I think that fits." So I'm
Yes.
thrilled to be doing that.
Yeah. How exciting. Yeah, I'm on a panel also, Karen, and the panel for me is talking about the power of our presence, of being present,
Mm. Mhm.
and making money, which is a twist for me. So,
Right. Yeah, it was like presents and then it was like and the money,
and the
like show me
money.
the money and how are those two related,
Yeah.
right?
You're right. Money and wealth. And so wealth gives me, wide open. And so there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, so good to talk about that with women, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thrilled about that. So Karen, tell me this. Now we're talking about a meaningful life. And so at this point, this time of your life, with all this, we carry wisdom. We know that. We carry some great wisdom. What does living a meaningful life mean to you now?
Well, that's a big question, and I'll try my best to answer it here. I am at the pinnacle of my life. I am honored and thrilled, and I know all of the hard work I put in. But I really feel like I'm reaching the pinnacle, both professionally and personally. And professionally, it's about having, a 27-year, private practice behind me, always refining the tools and skills and processes I'm using with clients that I know make a difference. Last year, publishing my debut book, and now speaking on stages and podcasts. Yesterday, I did my first lecture at a University of Toronto graduate school. Went back to my alma mater after like 25 years. So I'm really hitting the ground running. And, what comes up for me that's giving me meaning with all of this is not just the pride of what I've achieved after hitting rock bottom, but really wanting to leave a legacy that I feel so connected and passionate about the work I've been doing that I really want to spread the word. And it started with my practice, then got bigger with the book, and now going even into bigger audiences worldwide with the messages that I know have been so key in my life and so important to the clients I'm serving. You know, Personally, it's banking on all of that, to not just believe in the work I'm doing professionally, but continuing to push the envelope I to live the best life I can. I after hitting rock bottom and feeling like there was even no reason to go on, to living a life where I think part of hitting bottom was about never taking life for granted and living for today and creating experiences that are so meaningful, and always pushing farther. So I literally just booked a trip for my daughter and I. Here's just like one tiny example, because I was traveling in South America at the end of last year. And I asked the group, like, what were their best experiences traveling? And not even destinations, but like experience, right? Because that's what we really remember.
Right.
Anyway, somebody told me about this and I booked it last week. So my daughter and I in September are heading off to Tonga, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. Yes.
And if you know where it is, and we're going to snorkel with humpback whales.
No.
And we're going in the first week of September after the mothers have had their calves.
Mhm.
And for me, I'm not physically fit right now because of other health issues. So it's like, how fast can I swim? But the whales swim slower as their calves are learning to swim.
Yes.
So apparently, and I talked to the guy who's organizing this, and he said, when people come up the first time after swimming with the whales, he said they're literally crying with joy. So that's a small snippet
Oh
of
my God.
where I'm finding meaning professionally and personally.
Yeah. Oh, I, well, I didn't know about snorkeling with whales before, and I did scuba diving and stuff. I have never heard of that, but I'm like so intrigued because that's something I would want to do.
I know I'd never heard of it either. I didn't, I was thinking of like whale watching in Hawaii. Somebody
Mhm.
told me about this bay where you can go to where they're mating and giving birth with their and having with their calves. But
Yes.
getting in the water, wow, that's an
Yeah.
example, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've taken small, very small boats, like the blow up kind of, there's a name for it, but I'm going blank on it.
The Kodiaks, probably,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes. And with my photo gear and photograph
Mhm.
humpback whales and the calves and the mom shortly
Oh,
after.
wow.
And yeah, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And some of my most favorite photographs and ones people will stop and look at and go, and I'm like, yeah, the feeling comes through. And so I can only imagine, and I'm a little afraid, but I can only imagine what it's like to snorkel nearby
Yeah,
because
yeah. Well, that sounds terrific.
power, and I could see their eyes and yeah, it's like scuba diving with turtles was like a major
Right,
that I came
right,
out crying because
right.
it took me by surprise. There's that surprise. It took me by surprise. That feeling, I thought this would be really incredible, but it was so much more. It was like at a soul level
I
connection.
know. There's something
Experience.
really special about being underwater. I remember the first time I went scuba diving and I felt like I was like in a Disney film. That was before a lot of the coral reefs were bleached. And I
Hmm.
remember we were in Australia at the Great Barrier Reef and I thought then, oh, I've done a lot of traveling. I've seen a lot of the world. And I went down and like I said, it felt like I was in the middle of an animation film because of all the colors. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
like,
whole new universe.
that's right. That's exactly what I thought. I thought, I haven't been seeing the world at all. There's this whole other world down here. So it's
Yeah.
really magical.
Oh, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about this, Karen. You're kidding. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And we're just getting started.
I know. Yes. I was smiling before because I choose cards every day. These are the Cheryl Richardson Grace cards, and my card for today was surprise. So I
Yeah.
said, hey, I'm looking forward to this because
It's like
I had no
surprise.
idea. Yeah, I had no idea we'd be talking
Yeah.
about under the sea.
And here's something that's interesting, and I didn't even put it together when I booked it, but it came to me as I was doing a meditation with a client about a week after I booked.
Uh-huh.
Because a key element in the meditation I do with clients is about the whale breath. And whether it's a visualized breathing in and out through the top of your head, or
Mhm.
even deeper is that invitation to swim through the ocean waters of our life with gentle power, like the whale,
Mm.
right? So that balance of like, how do we get behind our power in gentle ways? And how do we add gentleness to our power? So I love that balance. And I've been talking to clients about this for years, and then it just clicked. I'm swimming with the whales, and then I'm teaching whale breathing and that meditation of balance.
Karen, when you get back, promise me you'll be a guest so we can hear all about this because I'm
Please.
so intrigued and I want to
Yeah.
hear it. I'm not kidding you. I'm like getting all these goosebumps and
I know. I
just
know.
thinking about it.
But that's my answer to your question about meaning. Because when we put in our work and get out of our own way and learn what the meaning is of those painful experiences we're having
Hmm.
and get on the other side of that,
Yes.
where we reframe what the pain was all about and how powerful that is,
Hmm.
then we can start building a life that we probably either didn't imagine could happen, wasn't within our reach, and now is
Hmm.
because of what we're learning about ourselves. And to me, that is the powerful journey. And it is a meaningful journey because it's like, the meanings we're attaching to our pain when we're getting in our way
Hmm.
are very different after the reframe,
Yes.
because now the meaning of the pain is completely different
Okay.
and is a huge invitation
Yeah.
to where we want to go and deserve to go next in a better way.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about like that personal, like we can be present with others, no agenda, present. It's like comes through, we're there, we're listening, and but to be present with ourselves with no agenda and to go through, and I'm sure you're there with your clients doing this, right? And to look at all that has happened, but in a judgment-free zone, in a no agenda except let's go through this. And
That's right. That's
right.
right. That's right.
Uh-huh.
A slogan I sometimes use is curiosity may have killed the cat, but it saved the human. So when we replace judgment with curiosity,
Mhm.
and that is in that present place where it's like, I'm just going to go in open. I'm going to go in with curiosity to say why and what and how. What
Yeah.
does this actually all mean with no preconceived judgments or even, positions that have to fit?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And curiosity is what leads to creativity. And then who knows what can happen.
Yeah, it's completely open at that point for good reason, and
Yeah.
it doesn't box us in,
Right.
right? And so anything is possible.
Yeah, and amazingly for me, when I've done that overview of situations and experiences and traumas, and with the whole idea of just observing, judgment
Yeah,
free, is when the doors were just wide open beyond my expectations of what could be there after.
that's right. That's right. Because it didn't have to fit what you thought you needed or wanted. It was kind of like it's
Yeah.
like open to choice, right? Because
Yes.
choice is so powerful, and having that freedom to choose because it doesn't have to fit a certain narrative. In fact, what you're open to or opening yourself to is a different narrative because maybe there's a different explanation for why things happened.
Right.
And locking into what you think happened is usually overly personal, or over personalizing. And it's
Yeah.
usually in an accurate belief that then, opens up in the language I use with clients, opens up that wounded self.
Mhm.
And reframing it from the healthy self is so important.
Yeah. So vulnerable and not an easy thing as you know, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Our wounded self is our default setting. That's the imprinting of what hurt us. And it's like that wounded self will trick us into making things fit and box us in. And usually we just keep getting in our own way until we wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us it takes a long time, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I want to revisit. You had said you had hit rock bottom. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so, as it is with most of us, it's years in the making, right? Where we absorb certain things about our childhoods, that made things fit, because we as humans don't like that dissonance. We do better with congruence. So it's like making things fit, but not having the capacity or being in overwhelmed states when those painful things happen, we usually make it fit wrong. And then unknowingly, we carry all of those inaccurate beliefs, and then we start to feel the big consequences increasingly worse. And that's exactly what happened to me. I internalized wounds around control and worthiness. And one example of that was that I had two older brothers who were close in age to each other, but far in age from me. And as the youngest and only girl in the 70s, in a very, traditional gender bias, society, they wanted nothing to do with me. It was like girls will be girls, boys will be boys.
Mm-hmm.
But I absorbed that in a way that I didn't belong. I guess I don't belong. I guess I'm not good enough. I guess people just leave me or exclude me. And I internalized that unworthiness wound, and I rode the aggressive side of it. So I overworked and overpushed and over controlled. And that created like years and years of negative consequences that ultimately landed me with an autoimmune disorder. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I was overworking at work and overachieving to my detriment. So I wasn't sleeping well. And I was pushing people I cared about away because I was just fighting too hard to find worthiness. But as with most of us, we will just come full circle and people left me again because you're too much.
Yeah.
And so then I felt even more unworthy. And that culminated in losing my marriage.
Uh,
So around the early 2000s, I had become sick. I had to stop working. I was so sick. I actually lost a second pregnancy, and then my husband walked out. And that was like my coming to Jesus moment. And I remember standing on the driveway after my ex-husband had left with our daughter. And I was like, I've never been so alone in my entire life. And then, as you probably understand, the shame was right behind it. And you've done this to yourself.
mhm,
And, like it didn't feel bearable for me to move on.
mm,
And as silly as it may sound, my parents were coming the next day to paint a room in my house yellow. And whatever bottom moment I was in where I wanted to give up, I knew I couldn't do that to them. And I don't really even know what I did overnight. I have no memory. I think I blocked it out completely. But I do know that in the morning I was standing on that exact same driveway. My parents pulled in. We got the brushes and the cans and the drop cloths, and we started painting a room yellow. And it wasn't just that something like that had stopped me. It's about what I did next. And that's where I dug deep. And it really informed the work I want to do with clients, and eventually did, which was really about reframing my deeper wound. And as it sounds common sense now, but at the time it wasn't,
of
but
course.
really rewriting that narrative that it had nothing to do with what kind of person I was, that my brothers didn't want to play with me.
Mhm.
And that rerouting that and reframing that, and then doing all of the cognitive and emotional regulation tools to hold myself accountable, that overworking and fighting and pushing and controlling were actually not getting me anywhere closer to feeling more worthy.
Right.
So it's kind of like that exhale and then really diving into the work. And by that time, I had to grieve a marriage, I had to grieve a child, I had to um, get my health under control and really understand how I needed to pace my energy and stress differently. And then really holding myself accountable that when I'm triggered, and I was still being triggered, as most of us are, in situations where I was excluded or left out for a reason.
Right.
That was like that moment of like, is this where I go down that, rabbit hole because I'm not worthy? or is something else happening? So
Right.
it's very active work that got me from rock bottom to where I am now.
Wow. And I just have to, and you can tell me this. I mean, you work in so many women, you can totally relate. I mean, we are the classic overachievers, partially because we're women and we need to show up in a bigger way, or, and depending on what we're doing and how we are. And, I think many of us were programmed that way. Like there's two different messages. There's the message, you've got to work harder, don't be lazy. And, once the boys answer the questions, you raise your hand and you better know what you're talking about. And then there's the other message, like, well, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
What makes
Right.
you so special? And it's
Right.
like this, like, oh my gosh, and who do I be today?
Yeah,
And
I think you're right. I'm actually writing an article right now called The Invisible Load for Women, and it's still happening, right? Despite, the feminist evolution and women stepping into their power, yeah. When I walked into the clinic where I was ultimately treated for my autoimmunity,
uh-huh.
the I would say like 99% of the patients in the waiting room were type A, high achieving women.
Mm-hmm.
And I still serve a lot of clients who are suffering with autoimmunity. I do serve men who have MS and other autoimmune illnesses. And but the bulk of those autoimmune patients are high achieving women because we're just absorbing all that pressure and then overcompensating by doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
And when that goes on long enough, yeah, it's our immune systems that become dysregulated.
Right.
And then then it gets a life of its own. And it's a double down at that point because
Mm-hmm.
now we're sick trying to overachieve. And it's just a big hot mess.
And
And
then
that's what happened.
we shame ourselves for being sick and not being able to do it. Yeah, and so I was a nurse practitioner and nurse 40 years and holistic nurse and body, mind, spirit, right? If there's any piece that is impacted, it changes the shape of the whole, right?
That's right.
So if you've got emotional impact things going on and you're not sleeping and you're and got all this worry and all this stuff, I mean, the whole thing becomes disformed and you get sick. You get sick
That's
in
right.
every way, spiritually,
That's right.
you don't have a place, you're not sure where, and it just and then I think sometimes we as humans need to go through that dark of the night, the worst of the worst, for
That's
it to be
right.
like, wait a minute. It's either do something or die. I mean,
That's
it is
right.
like, I gotta do something here. Or,
That's right. Yeah, those are all really great points. And yeah, when our nervous systems are destabilized like that, this is why I love the theme of your podcast because whether it's conscious or unconscious, the meanings we attach to the problems or our experiences or what we're doing or what we're not doing, like until we shift the meanings, whatever we do, it'll just be like new content, new details, maybe new people, but the same pattern.
Mhm.
So, only I think my personal and professional opinion is that only until we shift those meanings that we're internalizing and attributing to events,
Mhm.
until that shift happens, we're likely to do the same thing all over again.
Yes.
And in my opinion, and what I see and saw in my own life, is that it just keeps getting more serious and worse consequences that, are literally, it's like, wake up, like there's something else happening here. The meaning you're living by isn't actually the truth.
Right. Right. It took me a long time to start to even, I mean, I think about it a little bit, like in my 30s or 40s, I'm like, this can't be right.
Mhm.
And but I don't think the clarity came, or even the understanding of so much of it. And I guess that's one of the good things about getting a little older. We carry some wisdom,
Right,
to look
right.
back in a different way and maybe with a bit more kindness and compassion for ourselves as we're going through, because we did the best we could with what we had at the time.
That's right.
No.
That's right. Clarity. I love that word. And it's not even just compassion for ourselves, it's compassion for others.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to recover one of the relationships with one of my brothers because it was like I was either not good enough for him, and then of course as you journey through that you're like, wait a second, maybe he wasn't good enough to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When really when we shift the meanings and really take a step back and gain that clarity,
Uh-huh.
I was able to recover an important adult sibling relationship with him because, you know, I was worthy all along and he really wasn't the enemy that I thought he was.
He
And
probably had no idea that
he
that
had
was
no
going
idea.
on, right? Like what? He was having his own experiences.
Yeah, when I interviewed people for my book and I interviewed my oldest brother and I said like this is what I remember and I remember you talking at my wedding and he said he said in his speech to me like I really don't really know Karen that well and I was like that was so vulnerable, that was so real, but
Uh-huh.
all this time I was thinking this and he's like what? Like I had no idea. Like I was 7 years older and I remember like I left for university and you were still like just starting high school and
Mhm.
but yeah, he had no idea what like that whole birth order effect had meant to me. And
Right.
it that is the surprise, right? That is
Yeah.
the surprise. And it's also like, it's just that freedom, right? Because when we peeled all that back, it was like, oh, I had to do my own healing to have those conversations with him.
Hmm.
And then having them, it's just like opened everything up so that, you know, it was just like that energy
Yeah.
that came with that conversation because it was like, exactly. There
Incredible.
was no conspiracy against me the whole time.
Those are stories you tell yourself to make sense of what's happening, right? And and the stories you told yourself as a child, which, come on, I mean,
That's right.
those are
And then just it
limitations, you
and
know?
it
I
kind of
mean,
blow yeah, it kind of blows your mind, doesn't it? I mean, that's
mhm.
my version. Everybody has their own version. But when you think of, yeah, okay, I'm going to go with that storyline. And
Yeah.
then it's like all the things that I did in my life between like that and that rock bottom moment on that driveway, you
Uh-huh.
know, and it took us like it takes us that long to like, okay, what else is going on here?
Hmm.
And then when we dig down and do our work and look at the alternate explanations, yeah, we realize there was a whole other story going on the whole time that we didn't even think about or know about.
And isn't that just life? I think for me, life isn't, you know, not to sound try but it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Hmm.
And we're here to evolve and to learn how to love one another, love ourselves, and recognize nature as being we are nature, you know, so
That's right.
are
That's
part
right.
of nature and there's this wonderful healing power out there and other people are part and so the journey and so to look back with judgment is ridiculous because that was just part of the journey of what you needed to do and the timing of whenever you can look at your stories and attach a different meaning, you know, and look at them in a different way is whenever you can. That's your timeline. That's your thing.
That's right.
Yeah. And sometimes your body tells you, like, okay, already pay attention.
Yeah, enough. Yeah. Well, that's exactly because it was like if it wasn't enough for me to like have relationship issues and, you know, pissing people off at work because I had to have everything so perfect and, you
Mhm.
know, as all these signals if it's like I don't get it, I'm just going to keep doing this. I had all these justifications,
Mhm.
right? Until the pain got overwhelming.
Yes.
But I do often say this to clients is like you know, our judge is our biggest, you know, tool from the wounded self to manage vulnerability, right? And so if I'm wrong or you're wrong or it's wrong, then it's like, okay, it's black and white, and I don't have to mess around in these messy feelings.
Hmm.
So I feel it's important to fire the judge because only then can we uncover those more accurate meanings. So we are able to be free to be vulnerable,
Hmm.
right? And that means, yes, we stop blaming ourselves, we stop blaming others,
Hmm.
and we find a way to sit in those uncomfortable feelings without any kind of over controlling of that. And it isn't black and white. It's that ambiguity of like, yeah, they actually didn't include me, but they just didn't feel I had anything in common with me. And
Yeah.
then I started acting out against them to kind of get their attention, and that kind of just pissed them off more. So it's that ambiguity of the vulnerability of some of the painful things that did happen. But
Mm-hmm.
if we fire the judge, because it may make us feel better in the moment to have that, black, white,
Right on.
analysis,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really serve us in the end.
No, no. Well, I am so excited to read your book. I really am. And I
I
will
have the
have,
copy right here to show, or in the background there.
yeah, and I see your flower. I'm into flowers, so
Yeah.
I love that. And they will definitely have all of your information in the video description. So be sure and follow. And I want to close with yeah, well, it's a big question. I think so. If there weren't comparisons and things, all the stuff we're thinking about for you right now, what does success look like where you're at right now?
So it's such a personal definition, but what I usually advocate for myself and help clients advocate for is to live the best version of you,
Hmm.
to do your best every day, to take steps, whether you're talking to somebody or making decisions or plans, that's going to get you one step closer to what you really want in life.
Hmm.
To have that accountability to yourself, to honor your growth, to accept the invitations, to get out of your own way
Hmm.
so that, at the end of the day, you can look back and go, yeah, I took one step closer to what was most important to me, and holding yourself accountable for that. That's your success, because whatever you really want, not want, but really want,
Hmm.
is your liquid gold.
Hmm.
And that is going to feel like success because you're active in your life towards the things that are most meaningful to you. And that is your version of success,
Right.
giving your healthy self the most airtime you can.
Oh, I love that. There's an aha moment. There have been so many aha moments, Karen, but giving, say that again, giving yourself airtime.
Giving yourself the permission, the space, the honesty of getting out of your own way so that whatever you're doing or saying next is getting you one step closer to what's most important to you. So I distinguish the wants from the really wants,
Mm-hmm.
and not just what's going to feel good in the moment. You
Yes.
may even have to delay gratification for the bigger, longer lasting win.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we step in and embrace our success, because we're truly manufacturing our life and we're not in a reactive mode.
Yeah. Okay, that is a whole separate podcast, Karen, because
Yeah.
I personally could talk for hours about that.
Right?
So what what a wonderful close. And don't worry, you guys, we're going to come back to that. But because
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
so many wonderful light bulb moments here, Karen. And so I have loved this conversation. We will have the information in the video description, as I said. And thank you so much. And y'all go get her book and tune in. I know you're on socials and stuff. Find Karen and follow because just phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing, and how you crafted this podcast, the art of a meaningful life. And I think that is just jam-packed with so many gems for your listeners, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. I can't wait to read your comments, by the way.
Thank you.
Bye bye.